I joined because I just love being in a team where everybody kind of has the same likes and differences, because we all kind of are nerdy and like to game and have fun.
I believe in STEM. I think it's great for kids. It's hands-on. It teaches them how to problem solve.
I want to be a robotics engineer when I grow up, and I feel like this will give me a good thing to put on my college application, and B, will give me a good jump start on programming and building robots.
Have no sound. Which one shall we do today? Everyone show us your dance moves. To break them out. It's Simon Says in the chat.
I want to do like a.
I know that's exactly what
Put a gift card. Doesn't work that well in
jazz
here.
fingers. Jazz hands.
Somebody can hear. Somebody can hear.
Somebody can hear. Can you hear
Is
us
anybody
now?
here?
Narc
good?
Candy, sound check, sound
Yay.
check. Woohoo! Technology
right.
for the win. All right, so as we were saying, welcome to episode 66, Ladies of the Round Table, hashtag that LORT Live, get people in here, bring your friends. We've got a great guest tonight, Shannon Son Higginson. Ha ha ha, I said it all this time. And our ladies of the round table, they're somewhere around here, and we're talking GTFO. All right, so if you haven't seen the movie or you don't know what the heck we're talking about, you're living under a rock, Ian's going to be throwing out those links as to where you can see, buy, smell, taste, and love the movie, as well as tweet, share it with your friends. Hashtag for tonight is down there, maybe over there somewhere. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you're going to hashtag GTFO the movie, as well as live tweet us on the Twitter, and we'll get your questions in. So, I'm looking at, hey, Otter. Thank you for those who have joined us religiously every week and keep coming back. We love you guys. You keep this interesting for us. Sometimes it's awesome chatting with the ladies and sitting here talking as a round table. What we really prefer, you guys coming in and having a conversation with us as well. Because, hey, my opinion may be my opinion, but your opinion, that's something different. So we're going to start off by talking about the movie and our guest. So, Shannon, for those who have no clue who you are and think, that who's this beautiful woman sitting at the table with us, why don't you give them a little bit of a lowdown of yourself, because you know yourself better than I.
Great. So GTFO is my first feature film. I started it in 2012 and sort of just took a camera and went around interviewing people, and it sort of snowballed. People would reference their colleagues or people they worked with, other people that they thought would be good for the film, and it sort of escalated and then turned into a feature magically with a lot of work.
Ooh, and I know that some of us were wondering what was the timeline of the film as far as start production, end production, and done.
So after about a year of filming it, just nights and weekends, I had a full-time job as an associate producer for a documentary television company at the time. So I realized I couldn't just be spending my own money doing that for a year. So I did a Kickstarter, which luckily got funded. And then I worked on it for about a year after that. And we finished in the summer of last year. So just about a year ago. And then, the whole application, like the film festival process, that takes like half a year. So then it premiered at South by this year. So that's kind of how long it took.
South by, that's exciting.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was very, very well received.
So ladies, let's get into our questions. Let's start rocking and rolling. Let's give the guest a chance to fully form her answers and responses before we jump into another one, because sometimes we get excited and we start rattling them off. So we're going to start with Holly.
Okay, so I know that you've probably read some articles that reviewed the film. I looked at a few this week as well, and I'm sure that obviously you've spoken to people that have seen it, and probably like spoken to people maybe in some familiar formats kind of what we're doing here tonight. And of course, people always have, constructive criticism for really everything, but especially about film, a film about girls in the gaming industry. So my question for you is, after seeing the whole film completed, done, all the hard work, all the energy, was there anything that you thought that maybe should have been in there that didn't make it, or maybe something that was in there that you feel like that should have been left out?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it took such a long time to make it that I can't, if I look at it every time, I could come up with 100 things that I would do differently. A lot of them are technical, but definitely, like, there's some naming conventions of, we did chapters. I would kind of maybe rework some of the names of the chapters. And I mean, there were a lot of people who were really, really great who I just couldn't include in an hour-long film, either because like technically the interview was too poorly done, or because what they were saying was really great but couldn't be cut into sound bites for whatever reason. So yeah, it was very heartbreaking to let go of a lot of interviews with people. But you kind of just have to. Luckily, at that time, during post-production, I had already done the Kickstarter, so I was able to hire editors, and they could be a little bit more cutthroat than I would by myself.
That's awesome. Tiff, do you want to roll your question?
Yeah, absolutely. So before working on the film, did you have any things that you were anticipating happening like after or during it? Because I know, I mean, you went and you saw a lot of the outcomes from some of the women just in the gaming community. So were you expecting any of that to come your way after making the film or while you were making it?
Yeah. One thing that was just really touching about talking to a lot of the women in the movie was that they all, I mean, a lot of them sort of know each other either through like being a fellow person who's been harassed, or just through other means, professionally or otherwise. And basically everybody that I spoke to seemed to care more about other people. So they're like, yeah, well, this happened to me, like that sucks, but it really breaks my heart to see if this happened to my friend. So in that same vein, a lot of women at the end of the interview would say, okay, so these are the things that you have to do now to protect yourself, which was just really touching to hear. Like, they've been through so much, and then they're trying to protect me, who, like, I just came into this thing, like, kind of as a complete outsider. So, yeah, I mean, I can't, like, spend too much time worrying about that. I think just getting the message out is more important to me than sort of worrying about, I guess, backlash. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question. Like,
it's a hard one.
Too bad so far, but like, I don't.
So, I mean, you kind of mentioned something that kind of makes me curious at that point is after the interviews, the girls would kind of tell you, hey, this is what to look out for. Do you feel like that would have been important to include in the film?
Oh, like how they sort of warned
like how they
me?
dealt with it and like, what they did. This kind of stems into some other things that I was feeling about and we were talking about beforehand, but it was something that, these women went through some really negative, traumatic things in their life. And some of them were just so negative that after viewing it, I was like, man, well, what positive came from this? And I feel like you're not doing anything to change that view on how you feel about it, or what have you done in your life besides just try to ignore it. And it's something that, I mean, you started this in 2012, so it's been a couple years. And the way we react to things is a little bit different now. But I think it's very interesting on how you didn't focus on what they were doing besides just ignoring it.
Oh, I'm actually surprised that you said that, because that was one of my biggest concerns going into it, like making sure to include like the meetups, the relationships between the women, like that human aspect of it, and sort of their passion for what they do, the women who are doing really creative, interesting work in games, the women who either use humor or they use, their own voices either online or, as journalists to get the word out as much as I can. And so I think we do. I feel like we do include like.
I feel like what it was is a lot of it was addressing the fact that they were being harassed, but I don't feel like it was directed in a way where if somebody was going through that harassment on what they could do with it, or I just feel like maybe it wasn't a complete thought for me. I mean, this is me getting like, for background for me, for you is I'm not a professional gamer. I don't game professionally. I don't do tournaments and stuff like that, but I have gone through a lot of the things that those girls did when they're playing games, especially, playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. And of course, then you do have the panel of girls that were showing on there where they were like, we made a website and we make fun of it now. And haha, these are the dumb things that we get, and we joke about that. We understand that happens too. I just feel like the one woman that worked with BioWare, I felt like I felt like I wanted to know more from her about what she did, because it seems like she went through a lot of harassment and she went through the brunt of it compared to some of the other girls. And I was just really curious on this. Just I mean,
think, let me interject real quick, because I think the question is, Tiff, what Tiff wants to know is, the movie showed the harassment, the feeling of how the women were taking that in, digesting it, and sharing it with everyone, but the follow-up of how they dealt with it was very limited with the time frame and the constraints of the movie. We got the point. We got that they're going through it. You know, this is how the industry is for them. This is their perspective, but it kind of was a dead stop from there because of the constraints of, you know, the time frame and the cuts that were made. So from her perspective, as just an average gamer, she wanted to know beyond that. So maybe that's the question that she's trying to ask is, do you feel that's how it was edited and why it was edited that way? Or do you feel it was because of the process of making the movie that we kind of didn't get to talk about that part of the conversation?
Well, I think, unfortunately, in a lot of people's cases, you know, reporting to the police or reporting online using those systems doesn't necessarily work for a lot of people. So I did ask that, you know, as one of the questions, and really, like, most of the answers were like, yeah, I did, but, you know, nothing happened, nothing came of it, which I think for me, it was more important to sort of get the point across, like, take a little bit of a step back and try to examine the culture surrounding this harassment and not focus just on harassment. Actually, only one of the chapters of Video Game Levels is about harassment. The others are about, let's say, marketing or portrayal of female characters, and just other things that, you know, people are sort of working against in whatever area of games that they're in. And of course, it makes sense that people tend to focus a lot on the harassment, but it's not actually a movie about harassment in games. It's about women in games, and I don't think that every woman that I spoke to in the movie has had, you know, like these huge things, you know, like really scary harassment campaigns happen to them. And so, I mean, at the end of each chapter, we try to sort of focus on like some positive changes that are happening. Like I said, either if it's like a class that's, you know, a coding class that's just for women, or, you know, people creating games sort of independently and making new and interesting like portrayals of characters in games, or, you know, doing a girl gamer meetup group where they feel like it's a safe space. Like, we try to include little bits of sort of what these individuals are doing. I think, you know, people need to do whatever works for them on an independent level. So there's no, I guess we didn't include like a step-by-step, like what to do, because that wasn't really the focus. It was more just bringing this issue to light for people who didn't know about it. And I guess to also let other people know who are experiencing it, that other people are, you know, might be going through similar things, which is why also, like I said, we wanted to include a range of experiences, not just people who have had these really brutal campaigns against them, but people who have been successful and, you know, sort of like the cool work that they're doing. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I think from your perspective as a director, and that does help us, for those of us who've watched the movie and have some questions. We don't normally get this opportunity to talk to the person that this came out of their head. This is something they wanted to do. So we're grateful to you for coming and taking the time. So that does answer some questions. I think, Tiff, you would agree, since it was your question.
Yeah.
Or do you have like a follow-up question? I mean, also, like I said, I sort of came at this like filming people, and then it turned into filming more people. And, you know, even though we sort of divided it in a way that I felt was, you know, logical and like made it a little bit simpler to understand, because a lot of times in documentaries, you know, the arc is a little bit confusing. you're like, wait, how are we talking about this now? So we thought it would be a little bit cleaner to divide it up into those chapters. And obviously, you know, there are a million other things, a million other chapters that could exist. Like this could be a 10-hour miniseries easily. But I just didn't have like the time or budget to do that. So yeah, I mean, it didn't, even though the chapters, you know, we came up with them they were all based on recurring themes that women were talking about. And that's what we felt that they had focused on in the interviews, in spite of the range of questions. Like there are plenty of questions that I asked, like I said, like, what should you do to fix this? And like that question didn't really, there isn't like a clear answer. So we just didn't include that as one of the chapters.
Okay. So I mean, at this point, just follow up to my question then is obviously I interpreted your film a little bit differently than I guess you anticipated. So I guess it's like, were you anticipating other people to feel differently about your film, or was it something that you thought was a very clear message being sent out by yourself?
Well, what do you mean you interpreted the film differently than I made it?
I feel like there was more focus on the negative aspects of the harassment than on the positive things. I mean, you talked to a couple game developers that were like really awesome, and like when you're talking about like journey and how the character was made, you know, not male or female and stuff like that, that was really interesting. It was really awesome. But then we would go right into something negative about how the woman from BioWare was basically harassed so much, like she didn't want to do anything anymore. And I know you separated it into different sections. I just felt as a whole, I got more negative feelings from it than I did positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was intentional.
Okay.
I think it's, well, okay. So definitely the thesis of the film, or like I guess not the thesis, but one of the messages of the film is that, you know, women should be treated fairly and, you know, encouraged to join games more, not women should leave the industry. So I hope that came across. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when I sort of was introduced to this topic, it just felt like that was the, you know, these were the elements that sort of came out when I was talking to people about the experiences that they have, whether it is something, you know, it could be something like a microaggression that you feel when you're at a conference, being uncomfortable with sort of how women are portrayed around you when you're in a gaming space, all the way up to, like you mentioned, the BioWare, you know, that major incident. And these were just a lot of the experiences of people that I spoke with. Like I said, this is, you know, we tried to edit down, you know, the most salient, interesting, emotional, engaging pieces of what everybody said. And this is sort of what came out of it. So, yeah, I think the overall feeling is that, you know, there are some serious problems and, like, it's not okay, like, what's happening to a lot of these people.
Shannon,
so
let me ask you, I'm not meaning to cut you off, but I think you're perfectly clear about, and I want to clarify, when you made the film, you started off with a question. Am I correct? You started off with a question, you started doing some filming, and then you thought this would make a great documentary. You're with me so far? I think this is the you know, how it evolved for you to start into this would be a great documentary. Am I correct with that assumption? That
yeah,
this is what
yeah,
happened?
exactly.
Right.
So you got, yeah, I just started with not being sure of what the final product was going to be.
Right. And then from what I'm hearing from you in the conversation we're just having, this little bit of conversation, you basically went out and started talking with other people who were in the industry, people that had more experience than you did, because obviously this is not something that's your forte.
Right,
and
I had no experience.
Then you started making cuts and you started making edits, and you thought this is coming together great because this is the perspective of someone else other than myself. So I want to make that clear, guys, in the chat, and you know, people that are going to be listening to this later. You know, Shannon is not a gamer, right? Correct?
That's
maybe
right.
casual, but not a professional gamer. So what you see in the film is the perspective from other people, not herself.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Definitely. And we
So
actually, you know, we initially, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, so go ahead.
We originally considered, like my editors and I talked about maybe doing a kind of like a narrative voiceover, like a little bit more of my process and like the traveling around and sort of figuring out who is who and learning about this subject. And then we realized like that voice wasn't really necessary, and we just wanted the voices of the people that I spoke with, the men and women that I spoke with, to come out.
Do you feel that in making the edits and the cuts in the film, and you know, trying to get it down to something that was manageable for consumption, there was anybody that didn't make the cut that you really wish would have been in the film? You know, like your top maybe 1 or 2 people that you're like, man, I wish I could have put them in there because that really would have been great for people to see and or changed the perspective of the film.
Should I like list who it is? Should
Yeah,
I say?
I mean, you can say, you know, because obviously that we're not going to see it, but you can say their name. I mean,
so I guess, I mean, there are a few, but the one that sticks out to me is Catherine Cross. She's just really great at speaking, an awesome writer, and I think just the interview, like the sound. I mean, the sound in the movie, you know, has a lot of problems, but just with hers, like I wasn't able to use her interview. I could have used like 1 or 2 sound bites, but that wouldn't have really made sense to just squeeze them in. So I guess that would be my biggest person who I wish I had heard from, or I wish like I could have included. Like I said, there were.
Will that be bonus material? You know, if you could go back and if you could get, you know, a second budget for this film, would you think about making that bonus material? You know, if you could get an audio person to kind of make that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like if, you know, if that were feasible, that would be really exciting for me because then I could include all the stuff that I had to cut. So, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
If people were willing to tolerate. I mean, like at a certain point with audio, I think it's just not good enough. But I think in an extra scene, people would tolerate it a little bit more.
Were you surprised as getting all the yeses for people that really were like, hey, yeah, I'm going to do this? Or was there more flack than we think, or was it difficult to get people to be part of the movie?
I was really surprised. I think in the whole process, I got 1 no. So, yeah, I was very surprised at how many people were willing to talk to me about this. And, you know, we tried to, let me think of like the right way to put this. I tried to be as sort of like sensitive as possible when I was in person, not pushing too much like personal material out there, and also not asking questions that they didn't want to answer. So yeah, they seemed to be more than willing to share their personal experiences with me, even though I just tried to, you know, not force anything. Like there were no gotcha questions when I was talking to them. They kind of just shared whatever they wanted to.
So there was no semi-script when you went in to interview, you know, anybody. Did you have a set of questions? And then
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a set of questions that as the film progressed, or as shooting progressed, I developed those questions because some were more answerable than others. People tended to engage with some questions more than others. So it was an evolving list, and then it kind of just was. I mean, I would just do follow-ups, just with the pre-existing questions, and so sometimes the conversation would take a turn that I didn't expect because I wanted to just focus on whatever they wanted to talk about.
Dixie? Did we lose
Oh,
her?
I've been muted this whole time. I've been talking to myself. Wow.
Oh, no.
Technology. It happens.
Gotta love it. So we actually have a chat question for you. So obviously our assumption is that you are not, in fact, a gamer. So what actually inspired you to work on this particular movie and to create it?
Yeah, so the cross assault incident, a friend of mine who is a pretty, definitely a huge like gaming fan, and he's a pretty hardcore gamer. I don't know if he has that much time anymore to be officially that, but he knew that I was interested in women's issues, and he just sent me the cross assault video that people have been sharing on YouTube because he follows all the major gaming blogs, and I just couldn't really. I didn't even fully understand what I was looking at because it just didn't make sense. Like he had to actually walk me through and be like, "This is streamed," and like he is reading questions to him on the stream and enacting those things on this person who he's supposed to be coaching. Yeah, I was just really shocked. And I had a friend who was going to PAX East, I guess, that weekend. So it just started shooting then.
So, PAX. That's all you got to say. PAX is enough to inspire anyone to ask a lot of questions about themselves and why they're there. Yeah.
So I like to kind of play devil's advocate on this table. I'm well known for that. So certain comments have been brought up about how harassment is something that occurs not only to women in the industry and in gaming, but also to men. And I'm going to be very blunt with my language. I apologize. Men are harassed and they're called dickless pussies. And women are harassed and it's mostly sexual harassment. Do you feel like the harassment that women face is not necessarily a product of inequality, but a product of social gender structure?
Wow, interesting question. I thought you were going to ask, like, do you think men get harassed too? And I was like, yes, everybody gets harassed. Do I think it's a result of gender structure instead of inequality? I do think that a lot of the harassment towards men is gendered in the sense that female qualities are used in the negative, or homophobic slurs or calling somebody effeminate is used as an insult. So in that way, the insults towards men could be considered gendered as well, oftentimes. I mean, I think it's a lot of different things. We tried to cover that in the movie, but it's hard to point to like any one reason why women are targeted. We try to like explore that a little bit. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but I don't really have like a clear. I wish I knew, and then we could end it.
Really? I wish I knew. This is the question.
I wish it was that easy.
Do we have any other chat questions before we roll on to ours? I don't want to keep going with ours at the chat. I think I saw a chat about, I think Mal asked if you have been invited to TED Talk, or would you entertain the idea of doing a TED Talk with this movie?
I would. I don't know what I'm an expert on exactly. But yeah, I think most people would do a TED Talk. Wouldn't you guys?
I don't know. I would have to throw up first and then entertain the idea of doing a TED Talk because it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, whew. I think, Holly, you have not had a question yet. Am I correct? I don't think we've heard from you yet. So we'll roll over to Holly.
I started, so
yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty forgettable. Let's be honest. Just kidding. So, just a little bit of background about me. I am a like an ex-professional competitive gamer, like some of the girls that you had in your film. So I've been playing professionally, competing, and then like working in the industry for the last 13 years. And I'm only 25, so I just turned 25. So I started when I was 12. So I kind of had an interesting like feeling too as I was watching it. But one of my questions was it a choice to use the male perspective that you did, which I believe his name's Todd? I felt like he was kind of speaking as like an expert on stuff, which I thought was odd given the fact that he's a male. So was it more of just like letting him kind of go with it and just kind of roll with it? Or was it more of like, I don't know, like if I can find a female to do this type of role, or kind of like, what was your thinking behind that?
So there were a few things. And I will say, first of all, like talking to you all has been really interesting. And like, you guys are sort of the audience that I'm most interested in hearing reactions from and most nervous about hearing reactions from. Because a lot of people who didn't know about this topic are like, wow, this is so crazy. Like, we should do something. Or like, there are a lot of parents who are like, wow, I'm really going to talk to my son about this, or people sort of who relate it to their own industries, like, you know, people like women in tech, and they're like, oh, I went through something that's not quite extreme, but kind of similar. But definitely hearing from, you know, women in gaming is the most important thing. So let me say that as the first part. And then, so for Todd, I just thought, first of all, I thought Todd was great at talking. It was definitely intentional to include men, people who identify as men, because I think, you know, you want to have a little bit of diversity, like not just women talking about themselves, but people sort of talking from from a bit of an outsider's perspective, more of an outsider's perspective than the women in the movie. And I think that's what we sort of ended up using him as, is to give it a little bit of distance, because I think it's really important to have advocates and to have allies. And when these, in like a fantasy world, one of the trolls who was harassing the women in the movie would actually hate watch the movie and change their mind, instead of just sort of like fake watching it and writing reviews that refer to scenes that don't exist, which is a thing that happens. So I think getting that voice is important for, let's say, gamers who are men who are maybe on the fence about this issue, not really sure what to think about it, or maybe people who are even like on the side of the harassers. They're like, well, everybody just take it easy, like calm down. And having that male voice to say, like, hey guys, this is really bad, like, don't do this, was really important to me, because there really is only so much you can do. You know, if a woman is getting harassed, let's say on Twitter, in a gendered way, which is often how women get harassed on Twitter, and then another woman steps in, you know, she's A, making herself a target, but B, like talking to somebody who is sexist anyway. So I'm not sure they would necessarily listen to that second woman, even if she does have, let's say, like more followers or like more of like a voice of authority. And I think that having a guy come in and say, like, we need to make a change, is just a really important perspective.
I have to say that for me, that's a double-edged sword of an answer. I'm not saying that your answer is wrong, Shannon. I'm not saying that your perspective is wrong. But as a person who believes that I don't need a white knight to come in and swoop in and save me, I do value your answer in the fact that you said that giving the male perspective.
That perpetuates the myth that women are not strong individual people. I think allowing white knighting for us is something that works to our 100% detriment.
And I don't think that was Shannon's intention with having males in the movie. I think what she was trying to do is show the support from the other gender for the people that were in the film. Am I correct, Shannon?
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't think any of them. I mean, there aren't. I think there are only 2 men in the movie. There are not a lot of men in the movie.
I think there's 3, but that's okay.
Maybe I'm just confused, but
4. I want to say. I think there was 4. There's the 2 guys from the Call of Duty dude, the Todd dude.
Oh, yeah. Those were
curly
like,
hair guy.
Right. Those were follow-up.
I remember him sitting on the floor. I remember him. He was there.
No, that's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
I forgot about those guys because we filmed that like after production because we wanted to get sort of like what's happening actually in the lobby and like the other people's perspective, and her entire team is men besides her. So
I loved listening to her teammates talk about how they support her. So I thought that was a really great part that you did add into it. And you could see in their faces like how much they truly care about her as a friend. And you know, we all have male friends that are right there for us with it. And I think every one of us at the table could sit there and think of one person that would absolutely be the exact same way for us. So I was really, really happy to see that and to see him as an ally on her side, helping her out when she is going through this stuff online. And I'm really glad you put that in. I like that part a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, with the White Knight thing, I think about that a lot too, as a woman. So, I mean, I think saving somebody because you think they're helpless is different from letting your opinion, letting other people know how you feel about a topic. So I think going online and saying like, women need to be treated fairly on Twitter, if you're a man with an authoritative voice, is not, from my perspective, it's not being a white knight. I think that's just being an ally and showing that you are taking that extra step to let other people know, that what they're doing is wrong or that you don't agree with it. Yeah, I don't think, I just feel like showing support is different from saving somebody because you think that they can't handle it themselves. It's not about that. It's about, I think everybody needs to be on the same side on this issue. And, not including men in the issue of, gender equality in games is missing out on a lot of people who could be furthering the cause. And, like maybe not everybody does it in the right way. But I think, I just think that's like an important voice. And
I think we all agree with
that.
that. Equality for us. I think we all at the table, we're all sitting here. We wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't agree with that comment that, equality is something that we're all sitting here for a reason, talking about it. I think that the movie overall in itself, I think that it was brave of you to take on this challenge of something that was foreign to you. I have a lot of respect for that in itself, because I don't know if I could have been the person who said, hey, this is interesting to me. Let me put a film together. I think I'll shoot some footage and see who wants to come and get on board. I think that takes a lot of creativity, a lot of balls, and kudos to you for doing that.
A lot of ovaries.
Hey, whatever you want to put in there and insert here, be my guest. I think that it's awesome that for you, this is your first full length and your first feature. And from here, I think that you probably have learned a lot from overall of people who've watched it, including sitting and having a conversation with us. And I can speak for all the ladies at the table that after this show is done and you want to have a conversation or ask us some questions or send us emails and get perspective from each of us, we'd be more than willing to do that, because that's something that we're, would love to do. If you want feedback from us, we are hitting our stride in the last, half an hour, 40 minutes of the show. So we're going to move on to our hot topics. Any questions, comments, or suggestions that you have for Shannon on her next film, we're going to be throwing up her Twitter, her website, all the social medias, and all the places you can get in touch with her. Ian's going to be doing that in the chat, guys. Don't forget to hit that follow button so you can see who's coming up next week for our guest. But I think we're gonna move on to let's go with Tiff. She's always got something good.
I do. I have been heated up about this subject since probably Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, if you haven't paid attention to her Twitter.
I was so upset. I was like, no, I'll wait till Friday. I'll bottle it up and wait till Friday. So Nature Valley, the granola company, has put out a commercial, and it's on YouTube, and you could definitely get that. Basically what they did was in the video, they asked 3 generations of family. So like, kid, mom, dad, and then grandparents. They said, when you were a kid, what did you do for fun? And of course the grandparents were like, I picked blueberries out in the lawn. And, another Lynn was like, I made a super slippery sled. And, of course, trying to reiterate about how they spent a lot of time outside. And then they get to the last, the little kid, and they're like, so what do you do for fun? And they're like, oh, video games. I play video games. I love watching videos. And this one kid sat there and he's like, I feel so much better when I'm sitting there and I'm watching videos, or I sat there and I've watched this whole series in like 3 days. And this other little kid, he was the one that obviously needs some sort of help because he was really ridiculous. And he's like, I sit here and I play video games and I ignore my family. I forget I have a mother, father, brother, sister, pet, and all I do is play video games. And at the end of it, they were just kind of like, this is what's happening to our society. You should go out and enjoy nature. Granola bars. And it was kind of interesting because it felt like they were kind of using scare tactics, because they were like, what's happening to our youth and what's happening with our nature and stuff like that. And it kind of struck me as something that, as a parent, I have a daughter. She is 6. Viewers know. And she has an iPad. She has technology. I am on my phone all the time. But I love going outside. I love nature. I love hiking and camping and doing stuff like that. So for me, in this commercial, they sat there and they showed the grandparents and the parents the video of their kid. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of what the future is going to be like. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, no, this is your fault. You bought them all that friggin' stuff. So why are you surprised that your kid sits there and plays video games all the time? So then this is the other thing that I started thinking too is it really the next generation that is messed up? Or is it the generation that's raising the next generation that can't catch up and can't figure out how to raise their children? Where grandpa and grandma when they were raising those people, might have been like, okay, enough TV time, outside time, cool. And then this generation, they're like, okay, I only had an hour or 2 of TV. Watch all you want. And then they're like, what's wrong with our kids? So it's something that I was really bummed to see from a corporation using scare tactics on like older people, saying that the future is doomed because children are so into technology that they ignore everything. So I mean, I guess it's kind of one of those things is like, how do you feel about that topic? Like how can they act surprised about this? Is the problem really the new generation, or is it the ones who are raising them? And how do you feel about this kind of advertisement where they're pushing away technology on something like this? So, Shannon, how do you feel? Or have you seen it, or how do you feel about something like that?
I haven't seen that commercial, so I wish I had watched it before.
It was all over my Facebook feed, so I assumed it was going to be something that a lot of people would see. It popped up probably like 6 times in one day for me. So I was like, that's it. I got to watch this thing. And I was, what is this? And, but yeah, I mean, that's basically what the commercial is.
Yeah. So I think people, use video games as a scapegoat for a lot of things, in the same way that people use television as a scapegoat for a lot of things when kids started watching a lot of television. So I just think it's sort of a product of our times. I don't know if it's necessarily like I don't really think they thought it through, to be honest. Like, there's so many commercials that have so many issues that, like, yeah. I don't think they were like, this is anti-technology, because I'm sure Nature Valley has a Twitter feed that you could go on right now and like tweet at them about this commercial that's like demonizing technology.
I think we might. Nature Valley.
They're coming
for you.
Tiff, shut up.
Oh man.
So yeah, I don't know. Video games just seem to be like accused of a lot of things, and not being in touch with nature is one of them. And
it's the one kid that was really off his rocker was the video game kid. They had stuck into it. Yeah, he was off his grandfather's rocker and like just playing video games all day. One kid was like obviously a YouTube kid, and the other two were like two little girls, and they're like, "Oh my god, if I didn't have my tablet, I would die." And they were like 9, and I'm like, I totally get it, because y'all are 9-year-old little girls. Y'all are sassy to begin with your little ponytails and like talking back and forth. And I was like, oh my god. And it was one of those things where it didn't say this is not real life or these aren't actors. So it was one of those things where I'm like, they're probably actors, and of course this is a dramatic thing, but it's like, I really haven't put this much thought into a commercial in the longest time, and this one actually made me think about stuff. And seeing people every single day who come into my store where I work, and they're like, I don't want him to have this game. And I'm like, well, then don't freaking buy it. You drove his ass to the store. You made that money. Why the hell are you buying your 8-year-old kid Grand Theft Auto 5? Oh, he's going to see it on TV. No, he's fucking nuts. He's not going to see that shit. Sorry for my language, but I get really heated about like 8-year-olds playing Grand Theft Auto and like parents complaining about how terrible their children are. When I'm like, I'm a mom and my kid will play the things that are appropriate for her. Yeah, sorry. I get a little
I have
about
to
that.
Go ahead and throw Pixie in the mix, and then we'll come back to me.
I mean, like, parents, seriously, you need to parent your daggum kids, all right? Like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know why you seem to think that, like, you can just sit your kid in front of a television and bing, bam, boom, you got a babysitter. I mean, yeah, it's way cheaper.
Big bam,
to be
boom.
fair, but like, your TV is going to teach them all kinds of horrible things. Technology is going to teach them all kinds of horrible things, and you need to realize that you need to step up and be an adult and parent your kid. I never had an issue with video games. I'm gonna date myself. I'm not gonna do that. I remember playing on my first console, and my little, my old gigantic, as I say, little Game Boy, playing Space Invaders, and like that was the only thing my mom would let me play, and I'm like 8 years old playing my Space Invaders, and my mom is like, this is all you get to play because it's the only thing I know is going to be appropriate. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to play this, and I'm going to be perfectly happy, and I'm like not going to read in the car and get car sick. Like that was it. And the thing is parents don't do that anymore. Like, I don't know if it's that there is a generational gap. And I don't actually think it's with people in my generation. I think it's in the generation above mine and my parents' generation.
Thanks. Thanks, Pixie.
No offense.
Not everyone.
Like you're not the typical case, to be fair. But like, my mom doesn't know anything about video games. She doesn't know anything about video game ratings. She doesn't understand like the actual cost of technology. My mom thinks my Xbone is the coolest thing in the world because I can say Xbox on and everything turns on. She thinks it's the coolest thing ever, but she doesn't understand that like I don't live in I live in my apartment and I pretty much don't do anything other than like hide in a room because I'm an adult and I can make those bad decisions for my own life.
So I'm gonna roll over to Holly because you're rambling on at the moment.
I am.
I got your point. Holly, go girl.
So, my mom was one of the parents that drove me to GameStop and bought me Counter-Strike at 12, which is a shooting game. But that then became the game that I got known for and is the reason I'm sitting here today. But I also did 60 hours a week of activity. I was in dance and I was in basketball and I was in tennis and I was a black belt and I taught karate to kids with disabilities. I mean, like, I was doing a ton of stuff. So like, yeah, I was gaming a lot, but I made, like, even at that age, I was flexing stuff. Like at lunch, I sat with no one. I went to the library so I could do my homework, so I could come home and play for 8 hours. So like, I mean, I feel like it's all about balance, and that's where parenting comes in. Like, my mom made sure that I was doing other things, and gaming like wasn't just what I was doing. But then on the other hand, my mom was still very supportive of my gaming career and what I was doing, and she always has been. I remember when I first started playing Counter-Strike, my mom paints, and she walked in my room and handed me a painting of a counter-terrorist with holding an M4. And that's something I still have up. It's like, yeah, dude, like, my mom's freaking badass. She just painted me a counter-terrorist. And that game, just so everyone knows, it's rated teen. It's not rated M or anything. But, I mean, it is a shooting game, and I was 12. But, so I really think it's all about the parenting. And, you know, I'm kind of, like I said, I just turned 25, so like I'm still pretty youngish, and I'm still in that generation kind of. But I was a little bit ahead of my times. Like, now it's like every 12-year-old's gaming. Back then it was like just me. Like, I was really young to be playing. Like, there was a few young people. So I guess it really isn't my generation. But I mean, I personally love Nature Valley granola bars, but I'm gonna think twice next time Nature Valley. So
Me too. That's
sorry.
I was like, I love Nature Valley.
We're about to be repping those Special K cereal bars.
I'm gonna switch right over to Special K.
Fiber One.
Fiber One for the win.
So good. Going started. They're perfectly small and delicious.
All right, so I'm gonna be the voice of reason at the table. Mama Shriv stepping in, throwing down the gauntlet. From a perspective of the generation that Pixie mentioned, that is kind of stuck in the middle of all of this, raising a child who is the main consumption of these types of games and technology, and right in the mix, and she doesn't know anything else, and is instant gratification child. Being the person that was back in the Atari age, where I had a console, I had an Atari, I played, I gravitated towards things, came back and forth towards things, but really didn't start getting more involved until I noticed that my child was just obsessed with everything technology, not just video games, and being prepared for the online community and social media, and trying to head off whatever was coming her way and be a preemptive strike as a parent. I tried, Holly, to your defense, as your mom did, to get her involved in other things and get her interested in other things, but resistance is futile with my child. She did not want any of it. She was not having it, and she's interested in A, B, and C, and that is technology, robotics, and video games, and that's what she wants to do. So I do have her involved in a lot of activities, but the things that she wants to do, not that I'm going to force her to do, and not that your mom forced you to do that, but I would love for my kid to play basketball. She's 5'9", for crying out loud. All she got to do is stand there with her hands up in the air. All the other kids are in 8th grade.
Wow.
They're not scoring anything. She's just like,
she's 5'9".
Yeah, she's
Wow.
5'9". So, you know, I would be ecstatic if she would just touch the rim. Just go ahead.
Your teenage daughter is taller than I am.
Yeah, she's taller than me.
too.
But she doesn't want to do that. She wants to build robots and do engineering and
Can I have race lawn gnome put on my driver's license?
all that kind of stuff. So, in saying that, I have to make sure that I'm educated. I have to make sure that I know what's going on, because she is like on it before I can even think about it. You know, most of the things she discovers on a cell phone, the apps, the iPad. I'm late. I'm behind the curve. So I have to make sure that I'm ahead of it, to be prepared. Now, most parents don't do that. Because why? Because like there's a certain family member that I have that has a 2-year-old, and they will turn Power Rangers on and sit that kid on the couch and go make a phone call, or go watch Orange is the New Black, or go make dinner, because it's easier that way than listen to the kid cry and scream and have a tantrum because they're bored. So some parents parent differently. So we're not dissing anyone for your decisions on how you parent your child. We're just saying it would behoove you to be prepared and or research what's going on in the world, because your kid is probably consuming a lot more than you think he or she is, and or what you would really like them to consume. And there are plenty of outlets out there to ask the questions and figure out what's going on. There's all kinds of groups and places online. You can go into Tiff's store, have a conversation about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Nature Valley, you should have asked us before you made the commercial. We would have told you. It's not appropriate. It's not okay. But we're moving on to what granola bar? What bar are we moving on to now?
Special K.
Fiber One.
Fiber One.
That's got my vote.
Special
So
K,
Fiber One
Clif
people, if
bars.
you're listening, you're
Everything
on
but
the list.
Nature Valley. All my Nature Valley stuff
Right.
is going right in the garbage.
With
Throw
those
it away.
peanut butter crunch bars.
I'm gonna crumble it up and put it back into nature and feed the animals with it. That's what I'm gonna do with it. I'm not gonna get the satisfaction of throwing it away. I'm gonna be super ultimate Mother Nature and feed my neighborhood creatures.
What we're gonna
I've
do
got, like,
is
bunnies.
we need to
Over my
all
bush.
take pictures of us crushing Nature Valley granola bars outside and be like, this is what we do. We go
Returning you to
outside
the earth.
and we return you to nature because apparently kids don't ever
Setting
go
Nature
in nature
Valley
anymore.
free.
Game Boy
All right,
in
we're
one
gonna
hand,
move-
granola bar in the other.
We're gonna move to Pixie's topic now. Sorry, Ian, we're skipping over. Sorry, we're rolling out of sequence. Go ahead, Pix.
A lot of people know about the illegal uses of certain performance enhancing drugs. So recently it's come out that there were members of the gaming community, the professional gaming community, who were using performance enhancing drugs like Adderall. ESL has officially decided to institute drug testing. They released a statement that says, in order to maintain the spirit of fair play within esports, they have partnered with NADA, the National Anti-Doping Agentur, which is headquartered in Germany, to help create an anti-PED policy that is fair, feasible, and conclusive, while also respecting the privacy of players. I think this is kind of interesting. When you think of performance-enhancing drugs, you don't typically think of people who are sitting at a computer, trying not to get arthritis. You typically think of, the gigantic bodybuilders who are pumping themselves full of roids. So it's kind of interesting to see this interesting performance-enhancing drug usage within the gaming community, especially in terms of esports. It wasn't something I thought I would ever see happen. I kind of understand why it's occurring, due to the amount of time that you have to invest in gaming and practice. So it's kind of interesting, and I'm kind of excited to see what comes out of it and how it's all balanced. And I thought it was kind of fascinating that, like, people are using Adderall for this. So Shannon, what do you think about it?
Well, as the resident expert on gaming here, I don't know. I think every opinion that I give here is going to be just as somebody who just sees this issue from a much more outsider or like casual perspective. But I think if you're competing in something at a really high level and you're expecting to get sponsorship and to get paid and to have it your job, then it's a reasonable expectation that you may be drug tested when in season.
Amen, sister.
So I don't know. I think it's fine. I think I don't think people need to be drug tested just to like play with their friends. Like, you do whatever you want at home. But hey, if you're a professional player in anything, then yeah, it's not an unreasonable expectation.
I'm with Shannon. Hello? Did you not think it was gonna happen? Sooner or later? People are paying you to play and be competitive. They're gonna do a random drug test on you eventually. If not you, the dude sitting next to you, and then he's gonna tell on you, I think you should test Shriv. She might need a test. Pee on the stick. I mean, yeah, it's gonna happen. I find it interesting, like Mao said, hey, you drink enough Monster or Red Bull or whatever it is, a caffeinated drink, that could be considered just as toxic to you. Hey, chocolate covered coffee beans, up the wazoo. But Adderall, wow, really? And these kids are young that are competing. Holly, you could speak to that. The age range for competitive gaming is they start out pretty early. I actually like the idea of this happening because it's going to weed out a lot of people, surprisingly. So, Holly, Holly, what do you think?
Well, you know, I think it was last year that the whole talk about like gamers getting like visas, League of Legends people started talking about how like esports is a sport and how it should be gaming should be considered a sport. Definitely wouldn't say I agree with that, 100%. But if we're gonna treat it like a sport, then you're gonna get drug tested. So because that's what they do in sports, just like Shannon said. So I mean, I'm kind of all for it. For those of you that don't know, this is mainly talking about Counter-Strike players. So
Yes.
just to preface, I do not do Adderall, so not a thing. All my YouTube content is drug-free. So yeah, drug-free is the way to be. And if you're not good enough, then sorry, back on up.
Yeah. Yeah, so the person who like openly admitted to using Adderall was Corey Simphus Friesen. I apologize if I got that name wrong. But he said in an interview we were all on Adderall. I don't even give a fuck. It was pretty obvious if you listen to the comms. People can hate it or whatever. I mean,
Considering that there's so much money at stake for these competitions, I'm
Well,
surprised it took this long for this to happen.
well, and
It's true.
it's abuse of prescription drugs. I mean, I do understand like abuse of prescription drugs. Like I don't know, just go drink some damn coffee, kid.
Tiff, what do you
Get some
think?
sleep.
Yeah, right. Definitely
Hello.
I mean, I know that like I absolutely have a caffeine addiction, and like it's if I don't have some sort of caffeine, coffee, or some kind of drink, I have massive headaches. When I was having my daughter, I cut out coffee, and I went to the doctor, and they're like, "Have you been like?" Because I'm like, my head is hurting so bad. They're like, "Did you drink a lot of coffee?" I'm like, yes, I did, and I'm gonna go crazy. They're like, "Okay, have a little bit." So that you don't like go insane. I'm like, sweet, doctor approved that I can have frappuccinos. All right. So like I totally get that part of it, but that's like completely different from I would say a prescription drug, you know, but at the same time it's like, you know, it crosses lines between prescription and non-prescription and what you can get addicted to. And I don't know if Adderall is addicting because I've never done it. And I think the kids that I know that were doing it when I was in high school, I didn't hang around them for too long. And I didn't go to college, so I didn't have to stay up all night studying. So didn't have it around me. I do think it's a good thing that they're testing for stuff for the kids that are getting thousands and thousands of dollars for these competitions. But I'm curious as to see of what other kinds of things they would start testing for. You know, like I don't know what could be out there. I don't know what could be a performance enhancing drug for besides Adderall. You know,
Apparently they're
an interesting game, that's for sure. Let's get everybody really high and see who does the best out of that. That's a tournament I would love to see. That would be fantastic.
We're not endorsing Tiff's suggestion here at the table.
I would,
guys, let's all go huff glue and play Mario Kart.
I think that, you know, that's a completely different thing. That's not Major League Gaming. That's not you being a super professional at your skill.
That's a frat party.
Yeah, exactly. That's not you being $10,000 to win a tournament, you know? So I think it's a good thing. I just hope that it doesn't get like too like crazy. And I really hope that the people that are out there are paying attention to what's going on and they don't mess up their stuff for their future. I hope that puts that out there and anybody who is using it completely stops or, you know, finds help with that and just gets better instead of cheating.
I'm going to quote South Park, drugs are bad, okay.
Yeah. All right, so the consensus is, wow, really? Moving on to Holly's topic, last topic for the evening. Go, girl.
So, as you guys know, 2 weekends ago, we lost the legendary Satoru Iwata, Nintendo's president, and he was at Nintendo for over 2 decades. He was first a developer, and then in 2002, he became the company's CEO. For those of you that know a little bit about Nintendo, or a lot. Satoru had such a huge impact on Nintendo and the creation of so many characters and games. So I thought it'd be cool if, in honor of him, we just shared like some type of Nintendo memory, or like a game, like whether it's just like, oh, I saw this picture once, or oh, I like the mushroom guy. Like, even if, you know, you don't know names, it's totally cool. So for me, like, Super Nintendo was my first real gaming experience besides Rodent's Revenge and Ski Free on the PC. So SNES for me is like where it's at and where it is still at. That's the only console I will play. So I would have to say my favorite character of all time and favorite game is Donkey Kong. When people ask me in interviews today what my favorite game is, I still say Donkey Kong Country. So I'm going to start with you, Shannon. Any type of Nintendo memory or anything?
Well, I didn't really play games growing up, but I will say that I did have the traditional giant block Game Boy, on which I only had, it was like the black and white, or not even white really, but black and like gray green screen, and I think I only had Tetris and Mario, and I like beat Mario just so many times, and it got really boring. But yeah, that was actually, it's a good thing that this is what we're talking about, because I think that was like the only game that I ever had. And I think, awesome. You know, you start to develop the Tetris dreams and all that, so it definitely gets stuck in your head.
That is awesome.
I have to say Super Mario, and it's always been a favorite for me, and I have an emulator just so I can go back and share those types of games, you know, original Nintendo games with my daughter, because up until recently, and Tiff, you can, you know, correct me when, I think you can pre-order now, was the on the
Mario Maker.
Yeah, and I kind of felt a little jaded and sad when they started coming out with the different versions of Mario, like Paper Mario, and, you know, just messing with my Mario. I was a little upset. I'm like, why did they mess with a good thing? It's just awesome the way it is. But from a marketing standpoint, I get what they're trying to do, trying to revive it for the younger generation. But I actually played Paper Mario and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It just sucked. I'd rather play original Mario. I do have an NES in the house, and I will put it on the 60-inch TV and go to town and cracking myself up. And it's just a good time overall. So for me, Nintendo brings back a lot of childhood memories that were just being a kid and having a good time and playing a game that made you laugh or smile, or at that age you felt it was challenging because, you know, you didn't have the dexterity as you do now from years of playing something on a console. And it was awesome. And I think that I'm saddened to see that a generation will not understand who he was to us, because some parents just aren't going to be the people to say, let me tell you about this guy and what he created, unlike some of us at the table. So hopefully his legacy will live on in those games and the company. I'm not sure how they're going to do that at Nintendo, but we'll see. Pixie.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, Nintendo is just... Jesus. Like, my favorite thing is... It was just being in elementary school, and my best friend and I would play hours and hours and hours of Pokemon Stadium together. Just, like, over and over, and, like, could not get enough of it. And, like, Nintendo has just maintained this amazing business model that allows them to do so incredibly well. And I hope they stick to it.
Splatoon.
Splatoon is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah. My daughter particularly loves the Nintendo titles. We basically have a Wii U because it's my Mario machine. What we do is we play Mario on it. You know, we play Splatoon and we play Smash Brothers, and I can't wait for Yoshi's Epic Yarn Kirby game thing to come out. I can't wait for that. It's going to be awesam.
I played that at E3. That was nice.
I can't wait. I want those Yoshi amiibos.
Yeah, you're an amiibo freak right there.
I am not. I totally don't have a whole shelf full of them. I don't know what you're talking about. I remember being a kid, and I had the original Nintendo system. And my mom's favorite game was Tetris, and she would take it like into the bedroom and hook it up and play Tetris. And that was the one game my mom would play, and that's probably the only one that she got really into. She's tried a couple times to play some games when she got, I got her into them. She'd try, I'd give her that, but Tetris was her jam.
Peggle.
Yeah, right. I got her addicted to 1 versus 100 when it was on Xbox, and then they took it away, and she was really sad. But yeah, so after that, we did, of course, get the Super Nintendo, and I was addicted to Mario Paint. It had like the little mouse with it, and I could color things and make music, and I was so addicted to that one as a kid. And Super Mario World 3, I want to say. I don't remember the orders of them. It was the one that had the Yoshi in it, and he had the yellow cape and he could fly. I want to say it was a Super Mario World something on the SNES, and that was one that I probably played the most. And now my daughter is growing up with Mario and stuff, and she's got to play the Mario game. And I like Yoshi. Yoshi's probably my favorite because he's like a dinosaur and like a dragon thing, and he's so cute.
So
It's
cute.
like Yoshi, and he's adorable, and I love it.
So Mal says, "Can we have a moment of silence?" Mal, take it right now, my friend, because we're going to keep talking. That's what we do at the table. Us ladies. I love you, Mal. So I think that's going to be it for the show tonight. We're going to wrap it up with our shout-outs, and shout-outs are exactly what that means. You're going to shout out to anybody and everybody that has got you here today to where you are. Because you made it, Shannon. You're on the show. You tell all your friends.
Hey.
You made it. You hit the big time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been a really interesting experience because, with documentaries, I think almost every documentary filmmaker is in general making movies about things that they are new to, that they don't know much about, and they're kind of trying to explore it for outsiders. So it's really interesting to talk to you guys because I think a lot of filmmakers don't get to really chat with the people that the movie's about. Like, I obviously still talk to the people who are in the movie, but outside of that, it's interesting hearing feedback. But yeah, that's not a shout out. Did you want me to do a shout out?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat. Mal, you never take me serious, Mal. Come on. Anyway, yeah, shout outs, Shannon. I'm going to stop talking to Mal because he's distracting me. Shout outs. So, who would you like to give a shout out to?
To my mom, who I love.
Aww.
Anyone who has to pick your mom, she's going to be really mad now.
My mom made a Twitch just so she could watch me stream and comment.
Did she tag herself Tiff's mom? Because we will never know when she's in here if she doesn't.
No, I forget what her username is. I'm not going to put her on blast, but I was.
Why not? Because we love it.
I don't remember what it is. So there's
all right. When you find out, when you're back from hiatus, because you will be getting married, you will be like a whole new woman. We won't be able to call you Tiff anymore. We're gonna have to call you Mrs. Redbeard or something, and we'll be like.
No, you can call him Mr. Tiff. That's totally fine.
Oh, Mr. Tiff. All right. Pinky's out for Tiff, right? Shannon, is that it? That's the only shout out you want to give? It's an important one. Don't get me wrong, but you can give more than one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everybody who worked on the movie was just so helpful, and they did went way above and beyond what I could afford to pay them to do. So, my post-production team, they're really the ones who pulled it all together and brought me back to sanity when I just had dozens and dozens of hours of footage. So, this movie exists because of them. And our amazing graphics artist, too. She just did a dandy job.
I love the
graphics. She's fabulous.
So, I'm going to go over to Pixie. She give a shout out to that broken cam.
Yeah. Shout outs to Logitech. Thanks, guys. You really let me down on this one. Shout outs to my amazing SteelSeries headset and mouse and keyboard that, I don't know, I pretty much couldn't light these things on fire with gasoline and shout outs to my dogs.
Dogs or dogs?
Like my actual dogs. My
Yes,
four-legged babies. Because I have no life. And shout outs to my roommate who's been forcing me to watch The Walking Dead, who has officially robbed me of like 50-something hours of sleep. Thanks.
Alrighty then, moving on over to Holly.
Well, you know what, Shannon, such a good call. I gotta give a shout out to my mom too, because honestly, if it wasn't for my mom and my husband who first showed me Counter-Strike at 12 years old, I would not be here today. So because of both of them, yay. Also, shout out to my best friend Ashley in the chat, aka Narcandy.
Narcandy.
Love kicking ass and taking names and shooting people with you in games is quite enjoyable. Also, shout out to some chat lurkers, because I see that my girl Pepper's in here and said nothing in chat. But girl, I see you in the viewers section. And I love you, so thanks for coming. And then also to people that came in today that I haven't seen for like 2 years from streaming, thanks for checking it out and being awesome.
Hit the follow button.
And yeah, hit the follow button because we're here every week. And shout out to Nature Valley. Your peanut butter crunchy bars are definitely better than your commercial.
I knew she was gonna go for Nature Valley. Oh, Tiff, shout outs.
Well, shout outs to you guys for having me on the show, and I'm pretty excited about future shows that we have. Unfortunately, I won't be here for the next 2 because I got some important life events going on. Shout out to Mr. Redbeard who walked out with no pants on. That's pretty fantastic.
No pantalones.
Dancing in the living room now, so that's always awesome.
Damn, we missed
laundry. I wish I could show you guys.
Tease.
You just turned the computer.
Is that why you turned the cam a minute ago? I think I saw there was some jostling going on. Damn it.
I'm
the chat
too
was like, you
sexy
have some
for my
stuff on
pants.
behind me,
Too
so,
sexy for my pants.
That's what I think. That's the only song that goes in my head every day, which is why
that should be our opening video for the show, right? Run that sucker.
We'll make it.
You're on the job. Tell him he's hired.
And now I'm distracted, so
no more shout outs for you.
Thanks, Mom.
This ain't magic fight.
After that, we can go back. There's no point of return.
We can make it if you believe.
Oh man. All right, so shout outs. I'm gonna give a big fat shout out to Caffeine, my partner in crime, my secret love. Not so secret in this house, I mean, but don't tell my husband because I steal out of his coffee pot every day. We get busted. Without you, I don't know how I could make it through life, and I did not stop drinking the caffeine when I was pregnant. Maybe that's why my kid acts like she does. I don't know. But I love you, and we're meant to be together. Shout outs to you, Shannon, for coming on the show and joining us. It was a rip-roaring good time. We invite you to come back whenever. It's interesting to talk to someone like yourself that is not neck deep into what we do, but kind of looking at it on the fringe. So for us, it has been an interesting ride as well. So don't feel bad that some of the things we talked about, you're like, okay, I'll just give my opinion. Because we know nothing about directing a film. We have no freaking clue.
Well, I'll have to make my own podcast and invite you guys and ask.
For sure. We'll come on over.
Be there. With bells.
It'll be fun. We'll talk about some TV shows or something that we know nothing about. we have no cable. We don't know. I want to give a shout out to producer Ian back there for hanging tough while we rip through the show notes in no particular order. We're in trouble now. I also want to give a shout out to Mal for being my special troll for the evening. Thank you for harassing me like there's nobody's business and distracting me from doing my job. And final shout out goes to Anna Prosser Robinson, who will be our guest next week for Ladies of the Round Table, Lord Table Live, same bat channel, same bat time. If you have not hit the follow button, I'm breathing now, hit it while you got the chance, because then you'll know when we go live. Fortunately, Tiff won't be here because, you know, she's getting married.
Things
So,
Gonna make this official?
Yeah, damn it. She's gonna be wearing some kind of fancy dress and having some fish or chicken, I don't know, and, you know, doing the thing. We'll be seeing pictures and hopefully some video, and she'll talk about it when she gets back. In the meantime, this has been episode 66, Ladies of the Round Table. You know what we do, ladies? We dance it out. So, producer Ian, get ready to roll those credits, and Pixie, just pretend, I guess.
I'll do
you
the
dance
beat.
for real.
Too legit.
Too legit to quit. All right, dance it out, ladies. Come on, Shannon. Boogie down. We're dancing on credits. Oh, she's doing the worm.
I don't know the rest of the lyrics to the song. But
Banana.
I've seen that from the other day, and then I made myself a peanut butter and jelly for dinner with stew.
Peanut butter and jelly time. Peanut butter and jelly time. Woo! All right. We are on.